Down in Plano, Texas, we're just starting to get the full story on the fella that's going around into nursing homes and killing old white women. Oh yeah, that's the part they're not telling us. The victims are white. I think there was 1 or 2 Asians in there. So far, the butcher's bill is up to 12 bodies, 12 dead white women. And he's not really the only one roaming around the country attacking old white people.
Plano police investigated the cases of the 5 victims who were identified today, and tonight I spoke with 2 of their families. Most of them lived in the same place. That was the Preston Place retirement community. One victim's son-in-law told me they had concerns about security here. Billy Shamir is accused of posing as a maintenance worker or a home healthcare worker to get access to his elderly victims. He's then accused of smothering or strangling them and robbing them of jewelry and cash.
It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. My heart breaks for her family. I don't even know. I'm in such shock still.
Maura Davies is spokesperson for the SPCA of Texas and a friend of Phoebe Perry, a major donor to the organization who was devoted to saving animals. Perry is one of the 6 Dallas County victims identified yesterday, all of whom died in 2016 and 2018. They now join the 5 Colin County women named today. They were all killed in 2017 and 2018. Perry and her husband helped the SPCA build the Russell H. Perry Animal Care Center in McKinney, leaving a lasting legacy.
And she was so full of joy. She was so full of light. She was so full of love. She deserved the best in life for every moment of her life, and my heart is broken.
Say hello to Quentin Johnson. Yeah, he's got a thing for old white people too down in Florida. He found a couple living alone, went in there, and he beat them to death.
28-year-old Quentin Johnson is facing murder charges in the deaths of an elderly Canadian couple in Pompano Beach. Johnson was already locked up in connection to a separate shooting and robbery. Deputies say Johnson killed 80-year-old Mark Gagney and 78-year-old Rita Gagney at their home on Birdie Lane back in March. According to the arrest report, Johnson beat the couple to death after breaking into their home.
A couple of more stories of black violence against old people in the paper the last few days.
In his mind, he said, he's going to kill me.
Diana Brown's father fearing the worst.
Anybody to go in somebody's home is one thing, but when you go in and purposely hurt them when you wouldn't have to. I mean, he's 92.
We've concealed her identity, but she told us her father, a 92-year-old World War II veteran, was attacked, robbed, beaten, and held at gunpoint inside of his home.
Because he held it to Daddy's temple the whole time he was walking behind him.
By this man caught on surveillance video.
He was so shocked at how quick he had done jerked the door open and was behind him. And that's when he knocked him down.
It happened on April 29th on Monmouth Street in Sunnyside Central's historic district in Winston-Salem around 6 o'clock.
He busted in on him in broad daylight.
She says he forced her dad into a closet so he could search the home for valuables.
Daddy said he could hear him, and that's when he went in my dad's bedroom and ransacked that and took 2 of my dad's watches and the credit card.
Police say the stolen credit card was used at several stores, and the family told us stores inside of Haynes Mall. The victim told us the thief, who you can see in these surveillance images, spent hundreds of dollars.
And he went on a shopping spree and didn't give Daddy another thought.
Brown told me what happened to her father has truly broken her heart.
It's just the thought of even my daddy being pushed to the floor and kicked on, that would break your heart. You didn't have to beat him and kick him. I mean, he virtually helpless anyway. The guy had a gun.
Now she, along with the police department, are pleading for your help to identify this man.
I just pray to God somebody will recognize him, because he needs to be off the street. And if he's not caught, it's not going to be the last. It's going to be some other poor person. It's going to be.
Tonight, Mobile police making an arrest in the murder of an elderly man. 28-year-old Timothy Hall Jr. now behind bars, facing capital murder charges. Police say Hall shot 70-year-old Larry Willingham last August during a home invasion on Pleasant Valley Road. This all happening in broad daylight. On the day of the homicide, officers tell us Willingham's wife called police after she found his body when she came home from work. New tonight, a second arrest in a brutal attack of an 81-year-old woman. This all happened Tuesday on Panetta Court near Dauphin Island Parkway. 24-year-old Terrence Nelson facing first-degree robbery charges now in connection to that crime. He's set to be in court Wednesday, the same day as the first person arrested in this case.
Get out of my face. I don't do stuff like that. No, I didn't. Are you
28-year-old Francelia Chassain facing multiple charges, including elder abuse, robbery, and assault.
Yeah, there's a couple more I could have put in there. One in Harrisburg, one in a few other places. But let's get to this. What happens when people kill white people? What happens when one of the fellas kills a white person? Maybe not an old person, maybe a middle-aged person. Is it a big deal? Well, if it were a big deal, would they let a person accused of murder out of jail before the trial?
The youngest of 3 defendants in the carjacking and killing of a pastor's wife appeared in juvenile court today.
The victim's family was shocked to learn how the case is unfolding. Investigative reporter Mike Perlstein was in court today for the hearing. And Mike, what happened today?
Well, Todd, Katie, the family was shocked to learn that 14-year-old involved in the case has been free since January. Remember, this was the carjacking in which Janot Plessy was fatally run over by her own vehicle in her family's driveway. While the 2 older defendants, 18-year-old Edwin Cottrell and 17-year-old Jontrell Robinson, remain locked up awaiting trial for murder in adult court, the 14-year-old had been released on bond before his case was moved to juvenile court, where he was today and now faces a manslaughter charge. Well, all of that changed when juvenile court judge Candace Bates Anderson ordered the 14-year-old detained. Plessy's daughter, Nadia Sanchez, reacted after today's court hearing.
It's a little unsettling for us to think that someone like that was out in the public, free to do it again. But I think, like I said, we can breathe a little easier now, knowing that he is detained. There is some kind of consequence that he's feeling at this point for the actions that he took.
Attorneys for the 14-year-old say he had returned to school and was doing well, so they are now appealing the detention ruling. However, that turns out his manslaughter trial is now set for May 29th.
Down in New Orleans, this guy reminds me of my neighbors. Down in New Orleans, this guy's wondering and scratching his head going, hey, there's all kinds of crime in my town. Why don't you do anything about it? And I always ask when I hear that from my neighbors, I always say, hey, do you guys ever watch city council meetings? Do you ever read their Facebook pages? Do you ever follow them on Twitter? Do you ever listen to what they say about criminal justice reform? And they look at me like, no, Colin, why would we do that? Because then you would see that they don't think black crime is a problem. What's a problem is the white racism that's driving the black crime. That's an article of faith in New Orleans. And no matter and no matter what they tell you in between elections, during elections, and when they're out with their friends, they're not worried about the white victims. They're worried about the black predators. Go ahead. You can prove me wrong if you want.
You can hear the roar of the engine as 4 to 5 suspects inside the silver Nissan SUV approach Bradley King's home on the 3500 block of Upper Line Street in Broadmoor. Watching these thieves break into his car angers King to his very core.
When I saw that video, I was like, I'm done playing.
King says he was just outside trying out the new features in his Tesla when he went inside. Shortly after that, the young suspects approach his home. You can see one suspect check out the first car armed with a gun in his right hand before approaching the Tesla. Meanwhile, the other suspects jump an iron fence about 7 to 8 feet high next door. After seeing his surveillance video, King called police and says he got a shock at their response.
He said the footage is amazing, and he immediately recognized the perpetrators.
He recognized
them and said that it's just a catch and release situation. They're juveniles. They steal cars. They steal guns. They steal whatever. PD catches them, charges them. They get flushed through the court system immediately and just put right back out on the street.
Turns out this isn't the first time he's been robbed.
They've been doing this to me for 2 years. I lived here for 2 years, and it's been happening to me the entire time. They broke into my car on New Year's Day 2018, bled all over it.
In February, Eyewitness News documented a surge in juvenile crime and criticism that the court has become a revolving door for repeat offenders.
Juveniles are coming back into the system over and over and over again, and there seems to be no real consequence for their criminal activity.
After speaking with detectives, King posted his video to Facebook. He's calling on the mayor, city council members, and the legal system to step it up and do something about this before the problem gets worse. On Tuesday, you heard Bradley King's story where young thieves, one armed with a gun, stole items from the back of his car.
Theft with a deadly weapon? I don't care if you're 13 or 14 years old, you can't be on the street. If we got repeat offenders here that are getting turned loose again and again and again with a slap on the wrist, they have no respect for the law. They're going to get more and more brazen every single time until something really, really terrible happens.
It took just 24 hours for his prediction to come true. King woke up to text messages from his friends telling him about the car burglary in Mid-City that ended with murder.
I shed tears today. I'm angry. My condolences. Anything I can do, I can't even imagine. I can't even begin to imagine.
Just before 10 on the 2700 block of Cleveland Avenue, police say 17-year-old Emmanuel Pipkins was breaking into a car. They say Zelda Townsend and her husband confronted him. A getaway driver told him to shoot. Police say he did, hitting Zelda Townsend in the head. She died. Her husband was shot in the arm, but lived. For months, we've reported on car thefts and break-ins committed by juveniles.
My father was held at gunpoint.
In April, Councilmember Cindy Wynn's father was carjacked in broad daylight in New Orleans East. In November, a pastor's wife was killed when a carjacker ran over her with her own vehicle.
I miss my wife.
They have weapons on them as they approach the car, so they're armed.
Mayor LaToya Cantrell and the NOPD saying they plan on looking at other measures to tackle juvenile crime. But King says until real things change around the city, their message today remains hollow in his ears.
I just think that the city, a lot of times they've got these just PR things that they say and they don't actually do anything.
And no, we're not going to have one of these. Maybe this was really the straw that broke the camel's back in New Orleans.
Please, sir. I want some more. What? Please, sir. I want some more.
Maybe they're really going to start taking black crime seriously down there. No, that's not going to happen. Not in New Orleans, not in our lifetime. And we both know why. Because that would make the black kids angry.